My name is Horell. I'm an assistant professor of religious education in the Grad School of Religion and Religious Education here at Fordham. I also serve as director of the Ph.D. program and coordinator of religious education. I'd like to talk to you today about the importance of critical reflection. There once was a young professor who was hired to teach at a university. And he was assigned an office with an older professor on one side who had 30 years of teaching experience. And on the other side was a young professor who was hired the year before him. On the first day of the semester, he went to visit the class of the professor with 30 years of experience. And the professor came into class, sat down, had a notebook, opened up his notebook, and proceeded to talk at the class for the entire class session. By the end of the class, the students lifelessly shuffled out of class, and you could tell by the looks on their faces that they already knew that this was a class they were going to dread. The young professor went up to his older colleague and said, "Could you tell me about your teaching?" And the older professor said, "What's to tell? I was hired 30 years ago. My first year, I made up my lecture notes. And every year since then, I've just come in and read them to my classes." The young professor then went to visit the class of the professor who was hired the year before him. She came into class and she had some reflection questions and then some discussion. She related what they discussed to the course syllabus. And by the end of the class, the students were engaged in an enthusiastic discussion of the themes of the class. Later that afternoon, the young professor went up to his colleague's office to visit her, and he asked her, "With only 1 year of teaching experience, how did you become such a good teacher?" And she said, "Well, I have a rule. After every class, I go back to my office and I spend 15 to 30 minutes reflecting on the experience of teaching that class. I ask where I connected with students, where I didn't connect, where I could have been more clear." And that's when the young professor got an insight that changed his whole life. He realized that we could have 30 years of experience and learn nothing from it. In order to learn from experience, we have to take the time to reflect upon it. And that illustrates the importance of critical reflection.